Right guys, today I wanted to make a video about one of the world's, I was going to say Europe's because that is usually the case, but today it is the world's up and coming young talents, and it is the Australian international Garang Kuol, who has made a couple of appearances at the World Cup for Australia against France and Argentina in the round of 16, coming off the bench both times. And in the Argentina game, became the youngest player to play in a World Cup knockout game since Pele, I believe, in 1958, which is an incredible achievement to say the least. And he nearly actually scored late on in that game, and what a moment that would have been had his shot not been saved by Emiliano Martinez, because that would have been some way to announce yourself to the world. But he already has established himself playing for the Central Coast Mariners in the A-League in Australia, putting in some really good performances that have clearly caught the eye of Newcastle United, who have chosen to sign him. They agreed the deal in September, and he's going to join the club in about 3 weeks' time when the January transfer window opens. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of role he will play for Newcastle for the remainder of this season. But the fact that he's even made it into the Australia squad is a really big achievement at such a young age. And yeah, as a player, he is a player who can play on either wing. He's a winger and is very quick, very tidy on the ball, fairly two-footed as well, similar in a sense to Ousmane Dembele, I guess. Maybe not quite as ambidextrous with his feet as Dembele is, but he certainly can shoot. The only thing he really lacks is aerial ability, and that's mainly down to the fact that he's not the tallest, but there aren't that many weaknesses to his game other than that, really. He has a good goal scoring record and just a good goal involvement record so far in his young career. He's only 18 years of age still, and could have a big career ahead of him. And I think in the Newcastle team, I think he will fit in quite well, because Newcastle play a high intensity style of football where the wingers, so for this season we've seen it's usually Miguel Almiron and Jacob Murphy on the wings, who it's all about constant running, and when they get the ball, running at defenders or trying to play quick short passes in and around the area with players like Callum Wilson and Bruno Guimaraes in midfield. And yeah, I think that could suit Garang Kuol very well. It'll be interesting to see how he does. It might be a case of it takes time because he is such a young age, and obviously the Premier League is a massive step up to the Australian A-League. Who knows, there could be like an instant loan move or something like that until the end of the season, just to get him some experience in the English game. But his background is quite interesting. He was born to South Sudanese parents. He was actually born in Egypt, but his family fled to Australia as refugees. So really, interesting background, and like a tough background as well, I would imagine. I don't know the full ins and outs, but just reading up about that's he's come from hardship, clearly. But yeah, really talented footballer, very skillful, good at linking up play with his teammates, as well as scoring quite a few goals. On average, in terms of involvement for Central Coast Mariners, he has averaged roughly a goal involvement every 2 games, which for an 18-year-old, I know it's not the strongest league ever, but that's a really good record. So I mean, you wouldn't expect him to keep that up at Newcastle, obviously, because Premier League, as I've said, is a big step up. But if he can just make it people turn their heads slightly and just put a bit of spotlight on himself, not in a bad way, obviously. I mean, putting spotlight on yourself isn't exactly the most positive term about positive way to describe a player these days. But if he can get people looking at him for the right reasons, and get any sort of plaudits between now and the end of the season for any good performances he put in, that'd be a massive start to his life in England as a professional footballer in the Premier League for Newcastle United. I'm sure Newcastle United fans will be excited, as they should be.